right, so I'm going to show you some things about this calculator. I'm trying to get that to where it's easier to read. Okay, I hope that my my voice is coming through. Okay, so this is the problem we're working on right here. Doesn't really matter exactly what problem because I'm going to show you some stuff. I have to tell you, I've never played with the calculator like this before. It's very exciting. So we got our two functions right there, right? There's a function, and there's a function, and we'll call that one the upper function. So when we enter that into the calculator, that's going to be y1, and that's going to be y2, and they're going to be they're not going to be f of x equals something. They're going to be y equals something, just because that's what it works. All right, so now we're on our calculator, and I'm going to turn it on, and there you can see I have entered in the two functions. And I'm going to show you more in a minute. So there's our 4 minus 2x. That's our first function. Here is our x cubed over 1 plus x squared. That's our second function. Now, if I hit graph right now, nothing's going to happen. And the reason is because I haven't selected which to graph. So the way you select which to graph is these are your navigation buttons, right? So I'm going to, right now you can see the cursor flashing on the 4. I'm going to go over one to the left. Now you can go up and down these equal signs. And what that does is that enables the graphing of that function. So I'm going to hit enter on this equal sign, and then it's going to get inverted visually. And then I'm going to hit enter on this equal sign. And so now those two are going to be graphed when I hit the graphing button right there. So I'm going to hit graph, and boom, here come our two graphs. Oh, does that look anything like this? Yes, of course it does. It looks exactly like that, doesn't it? There we go. So now that's pretty good. So what we need to do, the first thing, so we're trying to calculate the area between these two curves, these two lines bounded by their intersection, of course, and the y-axis. So we're going to go back over. The first thing we need to do is we don't know, and this you just have to know, we need to find the x value for their intercept, right? And so we need to calculate that. And so right here in blue, on mine anyways, that's the second function for calculate. It's above trace. Trace, by the way, allows you to trace up and down a line, which can be very useful. So I'm going to hit trace. And then this is the way this calculator works. And yours might be different, but most of the TI-84 types are going to be the same. Up here, this shows you which equation, which function you entered you're working with. So right now, I'm tracing up and down the first function, and I'm using the left and right buttons. So you can see that little cursor thing going up and down, right? I'm doing the left and right buttons. But if I use the up and down buttons, then it's going to take me, so I'm cycling through, basically I'm going up and down x values, and then it's taking, calculating the y value based on that function. So if I hit the down button, it's this right here is going to change to y2. There we go. And now you can see that I'm tracing the y2 function that I entered instead of the y1 function, right? And of course, you could sort of eyeball the intercept right there, but you know what? You're not going to get it right. So don't eyeball it. You have these two functions in. So now we're going to use the calculate function. So we've got these two functions, y1 and y2, and we want their intercept. So I'm going to hit second. Then I'm going to hit right here. It says calculate above the trace button. Okay, and there we go. And now I can, for any I can find a value of a function at enter whatever. I can find the zeros of a function, the minimum, the maximum, and then I can find the intersection. Also, I can find that I can use the derivative of the function, and I can do the integral of the function. So those are all pretty cool. But what we want is the intersection function. So I go to 5. Now I can press 5, or I can scroll down to 5 and press enter. Oh, you can't see. I'm going to move that up. I'm going to adjust on the fly here just a little bit, so you can see the whole calculator. Make sure you can still see the display. There we go. Okay, you should still be able to see everything. Okay, so now I can scroll back and forth between these, or if I want to be really fast and cool, I can just hit the number. So now it's asking me right there, and this is the way it functions on anything where it's asking you about like multiple functions you're trying to solve together or something. So it says first curve right up there. That's my first curve. And so I'm just going to hit enter. And then it's going to say second curve. Which do I want to see? So I've got other stuff entered in there, right? I want my second curve to be this one. Now notice that it's only showing me the curves that I've highlighted when I highlighted those equal signs to indicate which curves to graph. So I'm not seeing the one I have entered as Y3. So my second curve is going to be that one. And then I'm going to hit enter. You see it's asking me for second curve, question mark. All right. And then it says guess. And the answer is, yeah, I don't know why it says guess because you're calculating. But that's what it says. So there you go. There's our intersection, 1.487644. For our x of our intersection, that is exactly what the AP Calculus AB exam key says it is. So that's great. Now, the thing I don't know, I'm pretty sure there's a way to store that value so that you can recall it without typing it again. I'm going to hit this button right here. On the fly, we'll see what happens. Store x to what? That's the question. I don't know. Error, yeah. So we'll just quit there. I don't know. Must be able to store to something. But anyway, if you want to look that up, I'm pretty sure that you can hit store and it'll store that value, and then you can recall that value. Maybe I'll figure that out later. Okay, so I'm going to hit this again. This is going to go back to our function list. That's the y equals. And there's our function list. Okay, so we have that other value, which I wrote down, 1.487664. And we have these two functions. Now, right here, I have entered. Remember, if we want to calculate the area between, I don't really need to repeat this. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm sure you know it. We have to subtract this function from this function, right? So in the calculator right here, I have manually entered the first function minus the second function. And if we scroll through here, you'll see I did the whole thing. Right? So that's the first function minus the second function. So now what we can do is we can go back on, we'll be using this one, and we'll remember that that's Y3, right? All right. I don't have any idea what that does over there. So I'm going to go second, and then I'm going to calculate it again. Remember, we did calculate before to find the intercept. So I'm going to do second, and I'm going to do calculate again. And now the glory, I'm going to scroll down so you can see where I am, but I'm going to hit this integral right there. See that? That integral is right there, right? And then I'm going to hit enter. I could have just hit 7, but you wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. Oh, actually, you could have. I could have just hit 7. Okay. Anyway, so you can see that you can also do the derivative if you want, which, if you're trying to find critical points or that kind of thing, that's pretty good. So here, integral. See, now it says lower limit because it's actually going to do the definite integral for us of that function. Okay, so but first, see right there, I'm on y1, right? So the first thing I have to do is look at that and say, oh, that's not the function I want. Okay, now I have not activated the function I want, right? I've only got y1 and y2. So I got to go back to my function menu, and I can leave these on if I want, because I can leave those on because I'm going to select which function I want, but I think I'll just turn them off. I highlight it, hit enter, and that toggles it between off and on. And I hit that, I'm there, and then I'm going to hit enter down here, and that toggles that. And see, now that one's highlighted, and that's the only one that's highlighted, right? So that's going to be the one. Now I'm going to hit graph. And that's the graph of those two functions together, which is interesting, but I don't know that it gives us any information we want, at least for this class. But that is now the active function, and it's the only active function. So I'm going to hit a second, and I'm going to hit calculator again, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to hit integral, bam. See, now it says y3 up here, and it doesn't let me cycle to the other functions because those aren't active functions right now. So it says lower limit, and I'm just going to put, you can use these, you can see how the x is changing, and you can see the dot scanning also. You can scan through there, but again, that's just a visual representation. What you want to do is enter the numbers. So the lower limit on this, if you remember, actually I'm going to go put those other ones in there too, so you can see them. So I'll go over here, enter there, hit that, enter there. Now those are all highlighted, right? So now I'm going to hit graph, and it's going to graph all three of those. Okay, so there's our first two, right? And so you remember that our lower limit is going to be x equals 0, right? And then our upper limit is the intersection, which we already calculated. So I'm going to go second, and then I'm going to go calc. And now I'm going to scroll down, or again, you can just hit 7. And then we got to make sure we're using the right equation. So I'm going to scroll through those. Now that's the right equation, right? And now the lower limit is 0. And I'm just going to hit 0, and then I'm going to hit enter. And then the upper limit, and again, you can scroll through there, but that's not what you want to do because you want precision. And that the graphing is just a visual representation. So it still says upper limit question mark, and so our upper limit is the intersection of those 2 points, right? Where we calculated. So that is where to go. It's a 1.487664. Okay, and I hit enter, and oh, look at that! That 3.2. Now that's interesting. It actually filled in the area beneath. Well, and that area is going to be the same, right? So that's very interesting. When it did the integral of our combined function, this is the correct answer, by the way. 3.21 whatever. That's the correct answer. But notice this line right there is the graph of those two functions combined, right? Of one subtracted from the other. So the area under this is going to equal the area between those two. But then when it graphed it just graphed the area under that combined function of both of them, right? So that's very interesting, I think. I'm going to clear that. We're going to go back to here. And now I'm going to show you a couple other things. And here comes the power. You ready for some power? All right. And this is something you would not necessarily found. I had to go searching for it. Maybe you would have. I don't know. So let me, I'm just going to turn all these off for a minute. 1, 2, 3. Those are all off. Now, when I typed in this function, I had to be really careful, right? Now, so first of all, I could have just done the integral of this within the bounds we needed, right? And this one within the bounds we needed, and manually subtracted those numbers. So if you forget how to do things or whatever, you just put those two functions in and do the integral, each integral separately using the appropriate bounds, and that'll work fine. Or you could manually enter in the first function and then minus, and then manually enter in the second function, but be super careful about parentheses. Also, remember about making sure that unless you see the degree symbol, you should be using radians, okay? Unless you see the degree symbol, you should be using radians. So, but ready for the power play? Here we go. I know that I need y1 and I need to subtract y2, right? So I'm going to go alpha, this button right here, and then I'm going to go F4, and I'm going to get a menu. Now, these four things, y variables, or whatever that says, var, I don't know why it says y var, but that's what it says. These are four different things, and I'll show them to you in a minute. But what I'm going to show you right now is this alpha F4, this one would be F3, this one would be F2, and this one would be F1. So if you can't remember which one you're supposed to press, just press alpha and press one of them, and you'll get this menu, and it'll remind you you need this one. So, but now, so I can pick one of these functions, and I can build another function out of those functions. So in this case, we need to subtract y1 from y2, right? or y2 from y1. So I'm going to go, there's y1, enter, click, and there's y1, and I go minus, and then I go alpha, f4, y2, enter. And now I've got y2, and that's it. And guess what? Watch this graph. I got the same thing, right? Watch this. Second, calc, integral. It'll even do those. It'll pull all those integrals for you. You don't have to do anything. So now, look, I've got function y4 up there, which is this composite function of y1 minus y2. And that's going to give me the exact same answer. Lower limit 0, enter. Upper limit 1.487664, enter. 3.214 and change. Exactly the same, right? So that's pretty awesome. So you will need to enter those two functions, and then whatever else you have to do, if you're adding or subtracting functions, remember alpha f4, and then you can just pull these other functions using this little menu right here and build a composite function out of those other functions without actually having to go in and manually do it like I did. So that's the big thing. Let me just show you a couple of other things here. I'm going to go to a new function here. And there are, and I'm just going to sort of show you this. And I don't know everything you can do with it, but it looks pretty awesome. So if I'm building a function, I can hit this math button, and then I access all sorts of mathematical things I can do, from the very simple to the very complicated. So I can just get a certain fraction. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Clear that. Math. That is not what I meant to do. So clear that again. Math. I did it before, and I found, and I was able to like actually build little fractions and stuff. It was cool. But anyway, this is where you'll find a lot of stuff here. I know there's something you can do that actually shows the fractions. But see, like you can actually, if you want to, you can put in a definite integral right there. And so you can go from 1, and these things go back and forth, 1 to 4, and then you can put in, whatever you want, x squared minus 2, right? And then you're going to go over here and put in dx because you want to know what you're differentiating with respect to, right? And then enter. And I wonder what the graph of that looks like. Anyway, okay, so now I'm just playing around on the video, and you don't need that, and my phone's ringing. So that's it, and I hope that's helpful. Bye.